Hello, folks, and welcome to my interview with Patrick Monahan. Now, I'd been talking to Patrick on Skype via the video connection. We were talking about the fact that his mother was from Iran, his father was Irish, and he was working out in Iran, and that's how he met his mother. And Patrick was the youngest of 3 children and left Iran when he was 2. The reason I'm not going to play back that section on this interview is because it was breaking up a little bit due to the fact we were using a video connection, so we switched to audio and the sound got a bit better after then. So here comes the interview from that point on when we're just starting to talk about Patrick's grown up in the northeast of England. I hope you enjoy the interview. Thanks very much. Cheers. So basically you're grown up in the northeast of England then. It's quite a funny place really. Everyone's a bit of a character there, yeah?
Yeah.
And
definitely. I mean, that's why I think it's perfect mix for comedy. I mean, because you've already got, the great parentage. I mean, everyone in stand-up talks about their parents in the background, which is brilliant. So you've got the Irish, who everyone knows about the Irish. Like, it doesn't matter which country you are in, everyone knows about Irish people and the stereotypes. And then you've got the Iranians, which, again, they're massive, because they're always in the news. Not so much their stereotypes, like people would know as much as they do as the Irish, but they know the main things about Iran and stuff like that. And then I suppose I was lucky because, particularly because I do most of my comedy in Britain, and I suppose one of the best parts, I always find it easy. I mean, I'm probably slightly biased, but I think the further north you are, the easier it is to do comedy because you've got that sort of northern accent, whereas the south, I mean, I think the south's nice, but they've always got that thing where you hear anyone with an accent, people already assume that they're already going to be better off than what they're going to talk down to them. So, so they don't really have as much warmth. And then the Midlands is all right, but it's not really as exotic, is it? And then the more northern you go, it's just quite funny, isn't it? And there's nothing funnier than, someone with a Lancashire accent or a Geordie accent or a Glaswegian or a Highland accent or just something, a bit like daft where people think, oh, God bless them, look at these, they must live in a house with an outside toilet.
Yeah, it can be quite an effective tool, and plus our sense of humour, not just the accent, our sense of humour in the north is a bit more, broad because we've kind of been beaten down. It's a harder life in a lot of respects, so you need that sense of humour.
Exactly, I think, and that's the whole point of comedy. I think is that, and you've got to. I think people forget about this. Is you've got to be able to laugh at yourself, and you talk about how tough you've had it, so that people can laugh with that. As opposed to, where no one's really going to laugh at a comedian who comes on and talks about how great his or her life is and about how much money they've got. It's always about people who've never, it's always about people like the comics who've always had down and out look, or they've always about this or they struggled and had a hard childhood. And that's what people love. I mean, you look at people like Peter Kay, Billy Connolly, or Dave Allen, his acts through the history of time. It's always been people who have, they've always assume that even though we don't really know about their real life background, you always just assume that they from, like 10 kids all living in a 1-bedroom house or 2-bedroom house and quite a rough bringing, but you just love that story. Just love the way they come from like rags to riches.
Yep, and it's the way they kind of, relate those everyday stories that kind of happen to everyone. They put it in a personal spin on it, but at the same time, you start relating to that, and then you kind of laugh at the healing that's kind of brought out through somebody saying that, kind of recognition of those tough times.
No, definitely. I think, and that's exactly because they'll have done everything that you do. Like they, like observational comedy is obviously massive at the moment, but it's always been pretty big. And they do exactly the same thing that we all do every day. People watching them, who paid money to see them in the audience, so they can relate to them, as opposed to, it's very difficult for someone. I mean, I'm just assuming, but it's probably very difficult for somebody who's sort of brought up in sort of such a wealthy background or an affluent background who's never really had to do half the stuff, and they've never used public transport, they've never done this, or never have experienced the same things everyone else. So it's hard for them to sort of stand on stage in front of,
Yeah.
500 people, or 200 people, or 2,000 people from working class towns, or from any sort of towns, and talk about, oh God, it's difficult, difficult for me growing up doing this and that, and then they talk about I've got like a fleet of 5 cars or whatever for the family, and so you're just like, okay, are people really going to believe this? I mean, they could probably do it as a character, but yeah, and I think that is probably why Northern comics are slightly luckier. Although, but then saying that, there's probably comics from towns like Plymouth or Portsmouth or Exeter and these places right down the south coast who were just from quite working class families, and they could probably just do as well up north or in any of these towns, as long as they pitch the right, hit it with the right sort of observations, connections, and stuff like that. But it is, I mean, that classic thing where you got a northern accent and you talk about, because all the little towns up, they are, even though they're so proud and so different, and they all have their rights, they are literally just micro little towns of each other. They've got a slightly different pronunciation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Just and their still works was the other side of town as opposed to this side. So it's hilarious.
So, I mean, your type of comedy, you do relate to people very much so on that human level. You come at them as one of them, really, practically more than most comedians, I would say. So what got you into comedy? And when you started, was that the kind of way you approached it, or how did you get in, and what was your first steps in comedy like?
Yeah, no, I would say I always, I mean, as a kid, I didn't even know what stand-up was, but I always loved the idea of just entertaining people, just talking and stuff.
So family parties and stuff, you'd get up and do something and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That was it. I just literally, I just wanted to, I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a job, but I knew that it wanted to involve people, it wanted to involve talking and stuff. And it was literally, and it was literally just doing this, was just like falling into it, because it was like a case of, I didn't know what jobs would. I mean, it'd be either like working in a supermarket or a tannoy, or working somewhere where you would get to speak to so many people and see different people all the time. And then I went to visit my brother, and he moved down south, and he was saying, there's loads of these like little pub gigs where you can come and just get up on stage and you can talk, people will listen to you and do like your comedy stuff. You like funny stuff, you just get up and talk, and I didn't realise what it was. I mean, it was such, and then it was such one of them cultures where I thought, oh, okay, then this is great. What, you just get up and so I literally just did it, and I thought, and I remember doing it, and I thought, oh my God, even before it, I was quite worried, and I thinking, why? I thought, you've got nothing to lose, it's down. But then when I'm on stage, actually halfway through, I thought, wow, this is the job I'd love. I thought, this is for me. Yeah, perfect. Such a laugh. This is it. You just stand up there, just talk, and just and people are listening. This is sort of thing, and I was just thinking, God, if I can get paid for this,
that's the way to go.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So
this is great.
Did you prepare anything for that first time? Because a lot of the time you improvise quite a lot of the audience, yeah.
Yeah, no, oh God, no. I mean that, yeah, because I didn't know, because that's what I thought all people did. I thought, I didn't really know much about comedy, but I just thought, you go there and you want to have some topics or some stuff to talk about. So yeah, I had loads of stuff. But a lot of it was just very topical stuff, stuff that was in the paper. I remember, I think Chris Evans, Spice Girls. It was just general topics, and then obviously talking about stuff I liked growing up as a kid, a bit of TV stuff like that. I think Jim Bowen probably got mentioned, and it was stuff like that, And then I remember doing the gig, and it was great fun. I mean, the audience were very polite. They sort of stared and thinking, bloody hell, okay. And then I just kept talking. And then so I thought, oh, this is great. Then I did another gig a couple of days after, and then another gig a week after that. I had a few gigs, but then I didn't realise, I thought you just kept talking. So I just kept talking about different stuff, and then it was only after a bit I realised, when you see other people, you think, oh, actually, these people are just doing the same thing. So maybe you can try and write a set or an act. And then, so I did try and do that as well. So I started to write, like, just set pieces or stuff like that. But then after a while, I thought, yeah, that's good. But then I thought, oh, you know what, I'll mix it up and then start. And it actually took me years and years before I managed to just go back to freestyle or just to sort of talking again. It's so weird. You have to go through that cycle,
Yeah,
where
that's actually what happened to me. I mean,
yeah,
it's basically you need stuff to fall back on. I think
mm,
you need stuff that you can
yeah,
pull
no,
out that's
exactly.
got a punchline that people say, "Oh, he's worked on that," and then okay, you've impressed them to a certain extent. Then you can go waffling again.
Yeah. No, I did. Yeah, because I remember you did the character as well, didn't you? And then you did all bits, and then you do songs and stuff like that. Yeah, but you've got like a set piece of that now, haven't you?
I've got material that I do, but it's kind of old because I don't perform
Yeah.
that much. That's another thing when you're performing a lot and you're making up
Mm.
stuff. You're coming up with stuff, and then the next night you can refine that a wee bit and stuff.
Yeah,
You really need to be doing it to kind of generate ideas and thinking about it.
that's it. Yeah,
The
exactly.
the brain kind of says, "Oh, I've got a gig on Friday. I better think of something for him to say."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So basically, you just started doing the comedy. You done open mics, and you started writing material. And what stage did you win the Take the Mic? You got an ITV's Take the Mic. How did that come about?
God, yeah. That was literally like a brand new act competition, but
Uh-huh.
they sort of put it onto telly. They put it on ITV. So I can remember doing it because there was. I remember they came round and just asked loads of, like, they would turn up to open mic gigs and getting loads of new comics to just audition, come and do this thing. So I went, yeah, it's brilliant, and I know I hadn't been going very long. I'd probably been going about 6 months or 3 months, whatever. And I thought, oh, this is brilliant. You get a chance to go and do like five. You only have to do 5 minutes
Yeah.
for competition. You go spend the day doing a workshop thing.
Uh-huh.
And I remember that our like mentor on the day was Stephen K. Moss. I'd never met him before. I heard it was a big comic. I thought, wow, this guy, brilliant. So
Who was
he
that?
turned up.
Who was that?
Stephen K. Moss.
Stephen K. Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so he
Uh-huh.
was, but we weren't told who it was, and then you go and get to meet him. And I remember there was five of us on the course,
Mm-hmm.
and like five of us on this day thing, like you turn, and obviously it was like every week they would film this, take the mic, so they would do like different. They did like a couple of different episodes. So like the one I did mine, you didn't think because you're up against people who've been going for a couple of years or whatever, and it was like me and someone else who was like literally brand new, we'd been going
Yeah.
6 months or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But then I think that helped in our advantage. It was actually easier the newer you were because you literally just could just do bang 4 or 5 minutes, do your stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas once you like now, I think it's harder now. The more experience you get to do, if someone said, "All right, do a 5 minute set," it just because it would take you like 3 minutes, 4 minutes just to get to the mic to say hello. It's
Yeah.
so hard now. Whereas I think back then it's dead easy. The new you're like, bang, bang, yeah, I'm dead excited. Bang, I can just get straight into talking.
Yeah.
So and I think that sort of helped me really. I think it was good that it was at competition and only doing 5 minutes, so it was dead. And, it was like, wow, yeah, brilliant. And I just went on and just went, joke, joke, joke. And I just did like all my Irish and stuff and
Uh-huh.
talked about who I was by then. And I think that sort of helped a little bit. It was good. They did a workshop where you would watch, like all of us, all five comics competing would watch each other and would work together and workshop. And then it was great because you'd watch it and think, oh my God, actually, these people are actually doing jokes, they're pausing, they're doing that. So then it would make you have to do the same thing, like, okay, well, I better sort of deliver it more as a joke and pause and do all that. So it was, it was good.
Uh-huh.
It was, I think, and I mean, the only thing was, I don't think many people watched it. But then it was great for what it did. It was just sort of good because it gives you that, you're dealing with your nerves. You're on like in front of TV cameras and it's going out the TV audience, so you've got to do that thing where it's good for you to get used to that pressure. Because obviously, as you start doing more comedy,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you do stuff later on, you have to get used to that pressure as well. But it's not just a live audience. You've got to get used to playing to camera if the camera's filming it and stuff. And obviously people at home be watching it and stuff. Or if you're doing a DVD, you've got to learn how to play to an audience, but also to someone watching on a sofa as well.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, even in the early days when there was a video camera on, I used to always have a bad gig. I don't know if it was just in the mind.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. We all did. I remember everyone would do that. You could tell the difference between a comedy, and even some great comics. You know, you work with them and like you've seen their act
Yeah.
a million times. Like when you gig with the same people,
Yeah.
and then you go and do something like this or a TV recording, and you've seen them do the same job where you think, oh yeah, this is going to kill, and then it doesn't do as well, and you just know it's just them. You just think, bloody hell, that one camera's just because the camera's there, it's totally just thrown their whole psyche and everything off. It's just thrown their whole time and everything. That just because they're so conscious of that camera, and I think that's the thing. But the thing is, it's like doing stand up, where if you're only so used to playing to so many people here or whatever, and then suddenly one day they put in, 1,000 people, they put in this, then it's going to throw you. It's the same as that camera. You just got to get used to every day doing that. And I think that's why, you just got to learn. I mean, just learn doing the gigs and imagine the camera's there or not, And I think that's the problem, I suppose, with a lot of TV coming out. You just, they forget that some comics really, we're just not used to that. We're just used to, we're like a live audience, and then you forget that because they put the camera there. Oh my God, it's like putting a big massive arrow at the back of the room where you try not to focus on.
So is that what you do? You just try and pretend it's not there and carry on as normal? You just block it
just
in
sort
your
of like just treat it as if it's like just another person who's watching the gig. The cameraman, play to the cameraman, and then as if he's just another puncher who stood in the aisle with everyone else who's there. Sort of.
Right. That's quite a good way to approach it then. Treat the camera as your friend kind of thing, and then you warm to it. Yeah,
exactly. Just try and make him laugh. God, if you can make the cameraman laugh.
So that competition, you went through to take the mic, and then was it a big final for that? Was it a big kind of showcase for the end of that?
No, that was great because I mean, oh God, if there was a big final for that, it would have killed me because I was literally going for about 6 months. And what was great about that one was, so you do the thing,
and then we
found out you
recorded
got through. You'd find out you got through to take them out. Like they'd all get loads of new comics they wanted. We'd turn up literally on the Thursday morning with the 4 other comics. There'd be 5 of us. We'd do like a workshop, all go through our act, meet our mentor on the day, like this big, like in every episode, every series, they've got like a big comic to come in, established comic. So like we got Stephen K. Moss, and then literally you'd workshop all day till about 5, 6 o'clock. Have an hour off, half an hour for lunch, go through stuff, come back, and then do the live show in front of an audience. In the comedy cab, and literally it was actually in a place on Commercial Street called it was like near Aldwych. It was like something like a little tiny art centre thing called like the Arts Cafe or whatever it's called. And then literally they come back, and then I think actually I think it was Amos again who actually hosted it on the night. And he actually, so there was an audience in there, they filmed with an audience, cameras there. But to be honest, you totally forget about the cameras and all that because you're just so nervous to play that, because it was quite a nice audience, particularly as I was such a new comedy, Mike, and suddenly seeing this like a decent big audience, thinking, bloody hell. So you got there, and then you just did your set, and then they told you literally on the end they had like a vote from the audience and the judges. And then that's it. And then they told you that there and then who won, and then I won on the night. I was like, oh my God! And I was lucky. I had a nice spot, and you just have one of them nights, when you're just hitting it. And I was like, bang, 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 and it was great because it was me and there was a couple of us in there who just had a great gig. And then it was one of those things where, and then just you were lucky, you just went on the right time. And there was only like 5 acts, so it's good. It wasn't like a long night, nothing. But that was much better. Whereas if we had to like do the thingy and then come back the next day or a week later and do that, that would have probably killed me back then because I was so new. I wouldn't be, you wouldn't be able to sleep properly. You'd be so nervous and excited. It was just good just to get it over with.
So how did you go from that kind of stage then to appearing at your own show at the Edinburgh Festival with a management company and stuff like that? Was it just a natural progression?
What, sorry?
Was it just like a natural progression? You get picked up, or what happened?
Yeah, I mean, well, no, I mean it's a bit above. You have to sort of push it. I remember, so I carried on doing the gigs, and then literally at the time as I went and did the Avalon had and Daily Telegraph had a comedy competition run together. And again, so I entered that one, like, because that's all you do in your first year or your first 6 months, was just enter loads of competitions. It's the only way you'll get gigs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I entered that one, did a heat in London, and I won that heat, so I got invited up to, and then I went up to the final in Edinburgh. And then when I went up there and I did that, and then I realised, well, I'm up there for a couple of days, because I didn't even know what the festival was. I didn't even know it existed. And then I went up there, and then you see all these shows, and you think, bloody hell, so this is what happens. And then we went round the conference, we saw stuff, so we thought, right, brilliant, this is what we, should hopefully try and aim to do this. And then I carried on doing gigs from that, and because I was in the final, there was a couple of us in that final, the producers or some people were in there, and the following year they invited us to come up and do like a 300 at Edinburgh where we do 20 minutes each. So I went up and did that, and then the following year we sort of got an agent from that, because I was lucky. But it took me about 3-4 years, I would say, before I got an agent. And they saw me in that show, and then they said, okay, do you want to come back up? And then we did a 2-hander and the Big Value show. And then the following year, then I went up and did a solo show. And then I kept doing it just because you've built that momentum. So you want to keep that going. There's no point, I thought, like, if you started doing all this, and also I was lucky, because when you went up and did the 3-hander shows, compilation shows, and the 2-hander show, there wasn't as much pressure. You didn't have to spend that much money. It was already sort of all taken care of. It was all quite, low budget. It wasn't like crazy sort of thing. Whereas, if you were going up as a solo act, oh my God, you have to pay all this crazy PR, publicity, posters. You have to pay for your accommodation, yourself, for everything for you. Whereas when you're doing it with 2 or 3 people, it's great. Everything is just split in the cost, and also we were flying for times ourselves, or you could all chip in and stuff.
Yeah, it helps to be attractive when you first start, rather than
definitely
be stressful. So, I mean, I seen you do the show Do the Right Thing. I think that was back in 2007. Was that your first one-man show?
I think that would have been my third. It would have been, because I would have done. I think my first show was called Game On, and it was just me talking about like childhood games and everything, like growing up to adults, and just saying about like the games you like then as an adult. And then that was the Gilded, and then I went and did Underbelly, which was the roadmap to peace, and then Do the Right Thing. So I think that they were all about the that would be, so I went to 1 was competition, 2 was that compilation, 3 compilation. So 4 was roadmap to peace, 5 roadmap to peace, 5, 6 was maybe Feel Love, Do the Right Thing, 7. So that was probably about my fourth solo show, 3rd or 4th.
Did you? I mean, the show was like, it was a show. It was all written practically as a piece. So did you take stuff from your club set into that, or do you sit down and write an Edinburgh show? How do you develop your show?
Yeah, I mean, I would have. I mean, for that, or particularly a few of them, I would have, when I first started like that. I would have just, because you wouldn't have got that many previews, so I would have just tried to do stuff in the clubs. But also at the time, I wasn't playing like the big clubs anyway, because I was still, you're still trying to break into some of the clubs. So I was lucky in a way that you could do more storytelling. Whereas now it's funny, because if you do the clubs now and still do the festivals in Edinburgh, like I still do the clubs sometimes now and again, and I've noticed that if you drop in and do the clubs and you do 20 minutes, even it doesn't matter how good the story is, like you could have like a 6-minute story or a 7-minute story or a 5-minute routine that is so good that works in your hour-long tour show, your Edinburgh show. But when you do it at a club and you're doing 20 minutes, it's just too long. You want to just keep it to 2 minutes maximum. I mean, if you anything longer than 2 minutes or 3 minutes, you're going to be like, you're really going to be trying to hold that audience, because their concentration span is so much shorter than like a theatre crowd or a festival crowd. But so what I used to do was, I mean, particularly like that roadmap to peace, that would have been. I mean, I don't really necessarily write theme shows, but that would have been more theme than most of them, definitely, because it would have been like I wanted to talk about the whole thing that was in the news at the time, which was, America and the UN and everyone was, trying to develop a roadmap to peace. And then obviously every time anything's mentioned in the news, it's always about, putting that roadmap to peace in the Middle East and about Iran and all these places. So I thought, well, we've got heritage in Iran. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll put my solution to writing about the roadmap to peace and see if I can, come up with a better solution. And then it just ended up really being about sending Lionel Richie out to, walk torn parts of Iran or to the Middle East where they're just trying to find terrorists. So it was a bit fun.
It's a good way as any, I guess.
Yeah.
So basically, so you don't do much club sets now. Do you just mainly do your full show?
Well, yeah. I still. Do you know what my agent and people said, look, they said just concentrate on your tour and do your full shows, but I always miss it. So what I do is when I've got gaps of time off, I say, I just go I'll do the club shows. But before the diary would be like you would spend most weekends just doing clubs, and I could give a monkeys wherever it was. You might do a jonglers, or you might just do like the comedy club in Manchester or Liverpool or anywhere, or Newcastle High, wherever it was, and you just do it. And then, but then now we were lucky, touch wood, you would go and spend a couple of months. Like I'd do a tour now, February, March, April, May, and then do like 15, 20 dates, do little art centres and or theatres, and so we do. Most of them are over the weekend. So midweek I'd go and do some little smaller gigs or student gigs or anything like that, and then in the summer is obviously it's all previews and festivals, and then it's Edinburgh in August, and then start in September, October, November. Sometimes I do some other little tours as well if there is any art centres that we missed, and then it's a lot of corporates as well. So you'll do loads of them sort of shows, and then any time that's left is just we'll just go and do club gigs. Which is great, not a problem. I mean, whereas, some people, you can get a bit lazy, where they'll go, well, you know what, I'll just concentrate on just doing the theatres and the art and that's it, and then the time, I'll just take that as time off. But I think you don't want to do that where, it's like when we were saying with you were saying it's like, when you're in Turkey, it's so much harder, isn't it, where if you have to wait a month or 2 months.
Yeah.
And that's the same for me, where I would just go. And also, I suppose it's easier for me than it is for you, because here there's no excuse. I mean, I can't stay here for a month.
Yeah.
And then really, round the clock, really, it's just laziness, because I could just, there's a comedy club here where I could just go to a comedy, 5-minute walk or 10-minute walk to a comedy club. So there's no excuse for me just to sit going, I might just wait.
Well, I thought you would need to do the clubs so that you could get an audience for your tours,
Yeah, no, well, and that's the other thing as well. That's why I think you need. I mean, the only problem is some of the art centres and theatres have a clause that you're not allowed to play another comedy show within that area, that town, within a space of 3 months or whatever, which makes sense because it is a bit daft, but then it is. I suppose it does make sense because the problem is, so say you're billed to play, say you're billed to play. Preston Town Hall, and it's going to be like £12 a ticket or whatever it is, and then or you can play the local comedy club, and the comedy club are only charging like £10 a ticket.
Yeah.
But the only difference is that you're only doing 20 minutes. There's 3 acts doing 20, but the audience don't realise that. So the comedy club will just bill it as going, come and see this guy. Instead of paying an extra £2 let's see him at the town, come and see him play our gig for tenner. But then the difference is they don't realise that that if you go and see them at the town hall, they'll be doing their full show for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And that's very. I mean, I've seen that where they do that for big acts like Milton Jones and people like that. I've seen clubs where they've done that where they say, come and see Milton Jones for a tenner as opposed to go and see him for 20 quid in the theatre. But the thing is, if you go and see him in the theatre, you are going to get brilliant. Like, you're going to get to see him for the whole night as opposed to just coming to a club doing 20 minutes and trying out bits and then
Yeah, makes sense.
But it just depends what what you want. So it's but yeah, you still need clubs. I mean, for us as a comic, you've got to I think you just got to do the clubs. It's crazy not to.
Uh-huh. So I think, was it 2 years ago now, you won a much bigger competition in Take the Mic. You won Show Me the Funny,
Yeah.
which was, I think, was
Oh
probably the
yeah.
biggest comedy competition on British TV ever.
Yeah. I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, that's the way they pitched it. I think they did it as a thing to say, look, this is like it's going to be like the new X Factor
Yeah.
for comedy, and I suppose in a way, it almost was, isn't it? It's a thing where you think, it's a big competition where every week you go to different places, and then there's going to be a big public vote at the end of it,
Uh-huh.
and that's brilliant. It's such a great thing. But the difference to the X Factor is that obviously, you can't do covers and you can't do stuff that people recognise. So it's always that thing of whether, and also it's all new jokes anyway. So people, but obviously people don't, and there was no backstory, so people wouldn't know who we were anyway. So they just come on and just see these comics. Some are new, some are older comics, and then just see how they go. But it was such a great fun, and doing the show was probably, I mean, today is probably one of the most exciting shows that I've ever done, just because it was great fun. Every week you go somewhere different. You didn't know what you were doing. We weren't allowed to know where we were going. We were literally just picked up. You'd go to a train station, wouldn't even tell you which train station, and you'd sit on the train, and it was quite fun. You wouldn't even know where the train, when it was going to stop. You didn't know which stop we were getting off at, and then yeah, literally to turn up, and then it was quite exciting. It was like, but then literally turn up, and then they go, right, you've got 2 days to do this. This is your challenge now, and then you've got to write this, and then you do this, and yeah, brilliant. And I think all stand-up should get to do that once in their career, it sort of makes you, keeps you more alive. It just makes you realise, oh yeah, okay, just gets you used to everything. Because once you've done stuff like that, then everything else, everything else becomes slightly easier. Because then you think, well, you know what, because I can turn up to gigs now and just enjoy it, knowing that you're not going to be judged, or that I can picture of new stuff and old stuff in. It's not going to be that dangerous it's not really going to be that bad to go, oh my God, just done a load of new stuff.
Yeah, stuff you've just written that day or whatever. So
yeah, because in the show we had to literally write all new stuff just to put in, and then do it live on TV.
Was it actually live? Wow. Was it actually live on TV? Yeah.
Well, when we did the stand up, they filmed, and then we weren't allowed to practice it. Like, we weren't allowed to do it in another gig before, and it literally was the first time I ever done it, which was in front of them gigs each week, and they were filmed like with the camera. So that was fine. It was like literally doing it first time to camera and to an audience, and then that was straight out. That was about ITV audience, but all of them were pre-recorded, only by about a month or two. But but then the final was live, and that was literally live. Literally, there was no. It was. I think it was like something like I think they had like a 3-second delay just in case someone could actually swear or something happened, so they could. But that was it. It's live, and it was. And the reason the other stuff was filmed 2 months before it went out, because it was actually meant to go out literally like meant to be a month. It got pushed 2 months, the scheduling, but the reason they couldn't put it out straight live was because obviously they had to edit it. So they had to show we did from the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, edit that together, and then to the gig, so that you could, so they could see that night. So all of that would took them like 3 weeks, to edit.
Sounds like a fun show. When you actually won, were you expecting your name to get called out, or how did you feel you'd done that night?
Oh God, no! I didn't expect to win at all. I didn't even expect to get to the final, because I thought, oh God, I thought, okay, you might have a bit of a laugh, and you'd carry on. It'd be all right to get through for a bit. But then I realised a lot of the people there were actually quite good joke writers. There's a few of them. I thought, oh, well, this will be more for joke people, especially just doing the 5 minutes. And also, it's like that thing where, like, Take the Mic, where it's always, it'll favour the newer acts than the older acts, because the newer acts are so used to just doing 5 minutes, whereas the older are more used to sort of getting into more longer routines. When you're doing the 5 minute set, you can't really then pull out a 3 minute routine or a 2 minute routine, or you can't do callbacks because you've only got literally 4.5 minutes, and then to wrap up 5 minutes to get on. So it's like, and also, I remember, and then the judges, I remember they kept sort of criticising, because the thing is, comedy is so subjective. Like, one person could love it and the next person could hate it. So it just depends who you've got, if they like you or not.
Yeah.
But I remember when I did it, I mean, I was lucky there was people like Johnny Vegas and Ross Noble who were lovely, but there's a lot of people who just didn't seem to like it. And I thought, well, that's fair enough, that's just going to be the luck of the draw. And if you get someone, so I just thought, well, you probably might not even make it to the final, because you might not get past any of these judges. And then when I got into the final, I thought, oh, bloody hell, well, that's lucky. And then you think, well, who knows what the public like. And also, I think when it's a public vote, you always think, well, if you look at things like the X Factor and stuff, it was, at that time, it's always like women, or they always like the female, in particular, because there was 2 lads in this final, me and Dan, and there was only Tiff, and I thought Tiff was brilliant. I thought, oh, well, maybe all the women, maybe people just, it's only women that really vote on shows like this, so probably it'll just be women voting for Tiff, bless her,
Well, maybe they'll fancied you, Patrick.
Nah, you're joking. Not really. I mean, not really comics, are they? If it was singing, then maybe, but not with the stand-up. Like, oh my god,
No.
Then and then also Dan was from Wales, so then you're thinking, bloody hell, you've got like, Tiff who's from London, but it's about 8 to 10 million people voting. Then you've got me from Teesside, which is probably about, I don't know, 100,000. And then you've got bloody Dan from Wales, where there's about 4 million. So you just think, if it does come to a vote, if it comes regionally or tactically, you think, God, you're buggered.
Right.
So, but then I suppose it's one of the things that, it's just,